Josh's prosecutors have ripped his wife Anna and mom Michelle for their baffling support of the disgraced star, as they have slammed his request for just 5 years in prison. Josh, 34, was found guilty of possessing and receiving CP on December 9 and will be sentenced for the crimes on May 25. The oldest Duggar son is requesting just 5 years in prison, while prosecution is demanding he receive the maximum sentence of 20 years behind bars. Josh's wife and mother, along with other family members and friends, helped support his lenient request by writing letters to Judge Timothy L. Brooks. The Sun can exclusively reveal that prosecution has responded to the request by slamming his loved one's support of the fallen son. In court papers obtained by the Sun read, to support his argument, Duggar relies on claims from his wife, his mother, and others that he is deeply devoted to his faith and family. He claims that the writers are extremely supportive while fully aware of his conviction, and that this will enable him to make the most of the rest of his life and to work hard to ensure that his children's lives are impacted as little as is possible by his trafficking in CSAM. Prosecution then goes into Josh blaming challenges associated with the fame from the family's show 19 Kids and Counting on. The court documents continue to argue, these claims only underscore the appropriateness of the government's sentencing recommendation. Indeed, his supportive family and public-facing and privileged lifestyle make his pattern of criminal conduct all the more baffling. Despite achieving some level of fame through reality television as an adult, he is better known at this point for his behavior outside his family's show, including his sexual improprieties and criminal sexual conduct. More importantly, none of these letters meaningfully grapple with his crimes or his sexual proclivities toward prepubescent girls. Prosecution then argues that it is unlikely Josh will ever receive the treatment, and, to be clear, nobody denies the extent to which real children are victims of CP crime. He is a kind, loving, supportive, and caring father and husband, his primary focus in life. My children and I rely on Joshua for financial, emotional, and physical support. Many others depend on Joshua, too. Joshua is a man who frequently volunteers his time, services, and resources, striving to contribute to our community and people in need. Then recalled how her husband interacts with homeless people, financially supports his late friend's widow, hires people in need at his car lot, and more. Anna ended her letter with, Joshua is surrounded by people who will encourage him to continue to become the best man, father, and employer he can be. I ask that you consider reuniting us as a family again soon. I understand the seriousness of this matter, however, I respectfully ask that you take this letter into consideration when determining a fair sentence. Mom Michelle said in her letter that Josh has friends and family who love and support him in his abilities to succeed as a husband, father, and business owner, and man both now and in the future. She said her son has a tender heart and is compassionate towards others. Her letter continued, despite the snub, Josh's legal team argued, Duggar maintains an extremely close bond with his parents and his siblings. Josh's legal team begged the judge to be lenient with sentencing. The court papers read, the 34-year-old father of 7 who stands before this court for sentencing has lived an admirable life while navigating unique challenges associated with being in the public spotlight since childhood. Duggar pleaded not guilty and proceeded to trial. He now stands convicted of a serious offense and, as such, this court must pronounce a sentence. However, in determining the appropriate sentence in this case, Duggar asks this court to recognize him for the person he is and the person he can become. The document continued, prior to this case, Duggar had never been charged with, let alone convicted of, a single criminal offense throughout his entire life. In stark contrast, he worked exceptionally hard, has always been fully devoted to his family, and exemplified selfless acts outside of the public spotlight that speak to his true character. However, what speaks to Duggar's true character is that his family remains firmly by his side and they yearn for the day when he can return home to them. His 7 children and loving wife are struggling to make do without him but eagerly await the day when he will return to care for them, to love them, and to provide for them. Josh's legal team continued, while the reality that Duggar is going to be sentenced to federal prison is undoubtedly frightening for Duggar himself, it has paralyzed his family with fear. Stated simply, any punishment imposed on Duggar is also a punishment imposed on his family. Josh's legal team also responded to the government, noting a pattern as a 2006 police report claimed Josh accosted underage females in the family home, including sisters Jill, 30, and Jessa, 29, who came forward as victims. Josh's attorneys argued, this cannot possibly be reasonably construed to constitute a pattern of activity sufficient to warrant a significant increase of 5 offense levels. And to be clear, it is not only the length of time that transpired between the 2 alleged incidents, it is also the fact that Duggar was a child at the time of the first alleged incident. The Sun previously reported that prosecutors are demanding the father of Judge Brooks will decide on the exact number of years based on a range determined by the federal sentencing table that factors in criminal history, age of victims involved in the CP material, number of images and more. Josh's legal team filed a motion for an acquittal of the guilty verdict, a new trial, or the dismissal of the possession of CP charge. Prosecutors responded by claiming the evidence of the defendant's guilt is clear and overwhelming. Josh's attorneys fired back by calling the trial and guilty verdict unconstitutional, but the judge has not ruled on the appeal. Josh has maintained his innocence. Josh was arrested and charged with possessing and receiving CP in April 2021. The highly publicized jury trial lasted 2 weeks before the jury submitted a guilty verdict on both counts. At trial, prosecutors presented damning evidence from Josh's HP computer. It was revealed that one file name found on his HP desktop computer was of a video of a 3-month-old being sexually abused. One folder contained 65 thumbnail files of an underage girl. The jury was shown the images and videos prosecutors claim were found on his computer. Prosecutor William Clayman provided alleged texts and photos were taken on Josh's phone at the car lot to show he was there at the same time CP content was downloaded at Wholesale Motor Cars. When the verdict was read, the counting on alum was immediately handcuffed and taken into custody at Washington County Jail. If you or someone you know is affected by any of the issues raised in this story, call RAIN at 800-656-HOPE 4673.